Hello everyone. I'm just getting situated. The Wi-Fi across the street was not strong enough to go live, and now we go live. Alright, ready? Ready for the NoPants podcast? It's the NoPants podcast! Okay, here we're gonna kick it off. Ready, Callie? It's a NoPants podcast. NoPants podcast. All right. So the first order of business is if you would like to submit a opening song for the NoPants podcast, let's talk. Let's do it. Let's bring talents to the forefront and share. Thank you so much for joining in on week 2, episode 2 of the NoPants podcast. Woohoo! It was great fun getting together last week, and let's see what happens this week. The topic this week is receiving, and I just want to share my awesome notes with you. Receiving. And let's start out with a definition of receiving. One dictionary definition had receiving as given, presented with, paid in some manner as definition number 1. And definition number 2 was suffer, experience, to be subjected to specific treatment. So that sounds like the not so great receiving. And the idea I'm going to share with you today is that what if you receive everything, the good, so-called good, and so-called bad? That's the judgment. So last week's topic was judgment, and we could build on that. The judgment of what's good and what's bad. And, oh yeah, if you're here and want to say hi, go ahead. I can't always see everyone's names. So you could type something in the comments, and you're welcome to jump in anytime with some questions or comments or add-ons to what we're talking about today. So I'm introducing this concept of receiving everything, no matter what, without judgment. So there's not this like, oh, I'm only going to receive the good things. I'm not going to receive the bad things. Because think of all the energy that goes into that, determining which is good, air quotes, and which is bad, air quotes. And that just goes into that energy of judgment, which, is heavy, subjective, and we don't always know what the universe is getting at to make a proper determination anyway. And the idea that consciousness is the absence of judgment, and so receiving anything, what if that's consciousness? Yeah, you can receive anything without judging it, having kind of that smooth acceptance, allowance of whatever. Yeah, what would that be like? So this idea of good or bad judgments. And have you ever had something happen to you that you judged immediately or experienced immediately or labeled immediately as bad? This is horrible. I don't like the way that this is going. The only example I could think of was years ago. I was getting on an elevator. I had this instinctual, hi Janice, this instinctual urge to get up from my desk and go for a break, take my break. And as I got in the elevator, this guy was like, oh, and he tried to get out on my floor, didn't realize that we hadn't hit the ground floor yet. He got on a higher floor and was coming down and was gonna, wasn't paying attention and just started to step off on my floor instead of going down to the ground floor to go outside. So he was rapping also to himself, and so if I was in his position, I'd be like, oh my God, this is horrible. I just embarrassed myself. I want to hide because I just got moted. Hi, Shambe. I just got moted. Oh, Shambe, San Francisco native word. I just got moted, so I don't want this person to witness that I just tried to get off the elevator at the wrong floor. And so I would, if I was in that position, I would judge what just happened as bad and embarrassing and, oh my gosh, I can't show my face. However, what ended up happening, because he did that move to get off the elevator, and that prompted me to say like a silly comment in response to that. And we started talking, and he was new to town, and he had like 3 other friends new to town, and my crew and his crew ended up hanging out all summer together, and then my crew went and visited his crew when they moved back to the East Coast. So, from an experience that I would be like, oh my gosh, that's so bad, I got caught trying to get off on the wrong floor. And yes, that's a minor thing, right? In the world of all the shitty things that could happen, just being embarrassed trying to get off on the wrong floor of the elevator. But it's a great example of how something that, has a negative kind of vibe, being embarrassed, turned out to be like months and months of fun hanging out, having a crew in the city, and all that. For my friends and his friends. So that example is about, we don't know what's going to come out of the experience and what the next step is going to be. So if we take time and energy to distract ourselves from just allowing what happens and using that energy to be like, oh shit, this sucked, or oh my gosh, I have to avoid that elevator so this coworker doesn't see me and laugh at me for the next few weeks, or just beating yourself up for, oh, I wish I had done something different, I wish, or sometimes you're like, oh, I had a great comeback, if only I'd thought of it then. All that like second guessing instead of just allowing the experience to be what it was. What if all that is distraction from what is around the corner? So this idea of receiving everything, the good stuff, which we all would love to receive, and that's an easy concept to grasp, right? Sure, receive the good stuff, no problem. But this stretching it to also receive the stuff we would initially label as bad or undesirable. So if we don't have all those distractions and energy used beating ourselves up in the meantime, and just have curiosity instead of like, oh, well, I wouldn't have requested this, and I wouldn't have guessed it, and I know I beat myself up in the past when stuff like this happens, But let's see what can happen now. What else is possible going forward from this point? Kind of like, where's the silver lining? How can you turn lemons into lemonade? It's so interesting how there's these sayings in the English language that are hinting at turning this. So even though one of the definitions of receive is to suffer and be subject to a specific treatment that, you know, in the basement of someone's dungeon, right? Even though it sounds like it's not that awesome, what if we just receive it? And really, that's a matter of trusting the universe. Like, does the universe have your back? And what's that term instead of, is it parent? No. Oh, pro. I'll have to think of it later. Maybe I'll be able to edit it in somehow. But is it pronoia? Like, instead of paranoia that everyone's against you, it's pronoia. Like, the universe is conspiring for you. So what if any experience that you would normally deem yucky or negative or bad, instead you got curious of like, I wonder what riddle the universe has got up its sleeve. I wonder how the universe is preparing me for my big ask. I wonder how this is going to benefit me and fulfill my asks and desires, because even if I don't see it right now, I've got trust in the universe. So what else is possible with that? How is that landing with y'all? Is that feasible? Does that seem like a huge leap of faith? You know, some people are like, I'm going to be a sucker. Oh well. What if that's just a distractive energy that's keeping you from what you can create if you're just an allowance? Like, yeah, that happened. And I bet the universe has something up its sleeve. So can you think back to any situation like that seemed like the world was going to end? And it's like, this is the most worst, horrible thing that's ever happened to me. But something amazing came out of it. So there are those stories where something tragic happened, and there's that phrase and outlook, like everything happens for a reason. And I'm not 100% on board with that outlook anymore, because it's kind of everything happens for a reason. It's kind of dismissive, and it's like, it's more like, yeah, shitty things happen. And instead, my new twist on that in the last couple years is, the word, it's passive. It seems very passive. My new twist on the past couple years is taking action and choosing and asking. And instead of everything happens for a reason, it's more like, my asks and my choices are not coming into play in a linear way. So I'm not quite sure how this is fitting together right now, but I know I'm asking and I'm taking action, so it's not passive, and that I'm going to create that outcome that I'm truly desiring. So there's a shift, an upgrade. For me, it was an upgrade. Instead of everything happens for a reason, to allowing whatever happens and receiving whatever happens. But that idea that something tragic can actually turn out to lead to the most amazing stuff. So an example that comes to mind for me in this area is that I was in a car accident in August 2000, so almost 17 years ago. And here's one weird part that I know it was for sure supposed to happen. I was buying something at an office supply store just before the accident, and the tape in the cash register ran out, and it was taking a super long time to find new tape for the receipt to print out on. And the way I was angry and moody back then, I would have walked out, because the things I had were not essentials, and I was impatient and hungry probably, and tired, fatigued as I was. So I was aware that my normal MO is like, if this takes more than 30 seconds, I'm out of here. And I thought of that, and something forced me to stay in place and wait it out. And it got more and more infuriatingly long and difficult for me. So you can see the growth I've had since then, when tape register receipt was ruining my world. And, well, here's the thing. That incident, because I waited, forced myself to wait for that cash register tape to be refilled. That put me in perfect timing to be hit by a car a couple blocks away when I was leaving. If I had left when I initially wanted to leave, I would never have been hit by that car. So this car accident led me to noticing how much anger I had. Like, I was playing it really cool and nice. Like, I was acting as if I was the hostess aboard the ambulance that had to come get me. And like, I was putting everyone else out. So I was like really trying to make everyone else's day okay, because I had been in a car accident. When instead, like, a normal person would be like, like just being in their pain and asking and receiving help from these professionals, the EMTs, the doctors, all that. But I was trying to play hostess and be really nice and accommodating. And then after a few weeks, when I was going back to work and I was on the public bus, I had overwhelming urge to elbow little old Chinese ladies on the bus that they only came up to my elbow so I could go right in their face. That level of anger, just because they were brushing against me on the bus, when I had been slammed into by another car, and I was acting like I was not angry at that, but I was furious at these little brushes from other people on the bus. So that contrast really helped point out how out of whack my anger was. And so I sought help for that, and I never would have otherwise gone and seen a therapist. So that was my first foray into therapy, and at the time it was just what I needed, and it was really helpful. And then it led to like this other thing, and really getting access to professional help, which eventually, that's also why I got my bars run the first time 16 years ago, is because of that car accident. And my back was in so much pain, I couldn't turn my neck all the way over my shoulders. So that's when I first had my bars run, which is the first class in Access Consciousness, which is all these tools that I use and share with you. Whoa. So, though it was a horrible, horrible, traumatic thing, that car accident led me on the path to all the awesome consciousness that I have now, whatever a percentage that is, and how much ever more consciousness I can obtain, that gap is is vastly different from the gap I had before of all that anger and misplaced stuff. So the idea of receiving everything. So instead of also getting angry and furious eventually when I acknowledge that of the other car driver who hit me, what if I was just using all the energy to be like, wow, I wonder what is possible next? What else can happen? And can I choose now that I've been in this traumatic car accident? So, yeah, looking for what else is possible. Like, what does my body need? It needs bars run, whatever bars was back then. However it was explained to me, I knew instantly that's what I need to do. It got me into seeing a chiropractor, which eventually led me into a network spinal analysis chiropractor. Yeah, it shifted and changed my career. So all these things were impacted because of this seemingly horrific car accident, but it's actually what made me the bright, shiny me I am today. So what is in your background, a situation that at the time you would never choose it, but since you went through it and are out on the other side, you acknowledge it changed your life and you would choose that outcome. So what if you're asking for something, and this is just the way the universe is delivering it to you. And if you're not receiving it and delighted by receiving it, what are you turning down from the universe? It could be the very thing that you've been requesting. Whew! All right, some heavy stuff there. Let's expand out and get into some lighter space and energy. So I just invite you to take a huge deep breath in and let it out. And then from the center of your chest, just create a little buzz on the energy you've got in there, and then expand it out through your whole body to your fingertips, your toes, and then 10 feet around you. And then 100 feet around you, 1,000 feet around you. Expand it out. And then push and expand that energy all the way through the earth and out the other side, up into the planets, galaxies, and keep going until you're passing planets only you know about. All right? So get that expansive energy. And let's play from there now. All right. So let's see. I've got an example, this fun analogy that I share with my clients. And so this is an analogy of what happens if we say no to the universe and we're like, no, I don't want to receive that, universe. Take it away. Here's an analogy that illustrates what might happen if we're not willing to receive everything, if we're judging how the universe delivers to us, and the universe might get fed up and be like, forget you then. So this analogy is about a cocktail party that the universe is throwing. And it's one of those cocktail parties where waiters and waitresses come around with serving trays, offering hors d'oeuvres and drinks. You get to just stand wherever you are, talking and mingling with other guests. And then the universe hires these waiters. They're they are essentially ambassadors of the universe. Essentially, the universe comes by and is like, would you like a glass of champagne? And you're like, no, thank you. And then in a little bit, the server with a tray circles around you again, and this time has a yummy, mushroom, one of those stuffed mushroom hors d'oeuvres. And it's like, would you like one? And you're like, okay, I'll have that. And then the next time, the server comes along with a tray and is like, would you like one of these canapes? And you're like, no. And you're polite, but you're like, no, thank you. And then the next time the universe server comes around with a tray, is holding up, what's offering now? Let's just say pigs in a blanket, but really fancy gourmet ones. And it's like, would you like one? And you're like, no. So that server with a tray starts learning to not include you in their lap around the cocktail party. So you get offered fewer and fewer items. And pretty soon you're not offered anything, because the server, this ambassador of the universe, realizes that you're not willing to accept and receive. You're not willing to receive. So they're going to stop offering. So why is that impactful and important to have an analogy around? Well, it's like the universe and how it works in our reality here. If you are no and poo-poo-pooing what the universe is offering you now, even though you don't see the benefit of it, you don't see where it's going to lead to, and it might be a stepping stone to the very thing you've been craving and asking for, but you're not willing to receive. It's like the universe is testing out, sometimes when you sign up for a subscription to something, you get a test, or you link your checking account to some automatic payment thing, and they do a test $1 deposit and withdrawal, and then you have to go confirm that in your checking account. This is like the universe. It's offering you little droplets and seeing what kind of a receiver are you. Are you a willing and delighted receiver of everything? Or are you one of these picky, snotty, stuck-up little bitch receivers that, you're not actually receiving? You say you would like, and I'll have that, but you're not taking the action to receive it. And the universe is like, oh, so I sent out that test sample, that $1 deposit, and it didn't go too well. It didn't get received. So this must not be the right time to do this. So the universe does not end up sending you the big ask that you made. All right? Whew. So how do you form that relationship with the universe? Well, receiving everything. Allowing for everything. Because since the universe doesn't deliver in a linear way where you could be like, oh, A plus B leads to C and then D and then I get E, my big exciting ask. We don't get to see what happens next. We don't get to know for sure all the steps it's going to take to get to that thing that we ask for. We just don't. And I think one reason why is because having all your dreams come true would fucking blow your mind. If you got everything you ask for, right away, and like a guaranteed yes, how many of you would start freaking out and being like, oh, I don't deserve this. Oh, it's too much. Oh, I can't handle it. Like rock stars freak out and get drug addicted because they get fame too quickly. So what if you got your universe asks too quickly? And what if just getting a smidge at a time is a way for the universe to gently level you up and get you used to having all that you ask for? Hi, Rachel. Nice to see you on here. So what if, let's say that again, what if the universe is giving you little bite-sized baby step pieces, bit by bit? You don't get to know what the full outcome is because, one, you're getting the bit by bit baby step pieces because it helps you transition and get comfortable with that receiving. And when you're able to receive more, you'll get more. The universe is actually pretty nice because it doesn't want to blow you away and blow you out of the water. It's like, here's a little bit. Are you okay with this? Okay, here's a little more. Are you okay with that? And if you're like, no receiving, the universe is like, oh, okay, she's not ready to receive. Okay, maybe I'll come back later. Maybe she doesn't really want it. So there you go. Receiving everything helps you to receive what you're actually asking for. And the universe is so crazy awesome at essentially creating these riddles that we don't know what's going on. We can't decipher them. But in hindsight, it's like, oh, that's what happened. Because of that, this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. And if I had turned off my receiving at that point, all the rest of this wouldn't have happened. And I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have what I've requested. I wouldn't. So, universe is ridiculous, hilarious, likes riddles, and has your back. How about that? So, are you willing to receive everything? So if you were here when we expanded out past all the planets, check in on all that vast consciousness and awareness you have access to, and just breathe in and receive all that's available in all that space. I'm checking my notes again. So is the universe testing your desire? Because if, like, the universe wants to double check, like, oh, does she really want this? Is this where we're going? Is this where we're going with this? Is she ready? Setting up an appropriate time. Oh, okay. So what if you're like, I've got the absence of receiving, and essentially you're not willing to receive on the universe's timeline. You're like, I want it now. Hurry up. What if the universe is getting other parties ready, so it's perfect timing, and that's the perfect person or the perfect job, but other stuff has to shift in the world for it all to become ready and available to you? So by trusting the universe's timing, receiving on the universe's schedule, that's another way of receiving, like allowing for whatever time it takes and not getting antsy and agitated and impatient in the meantime. Receiving on the universe's timeline means that you're going to get something even more awesome and like the best of the best, because the universe is rearranging, like, that job has to be created, or that partner has to break up and have a single experience before being ready to date you. whatever, all that stuff. You use your imagination, you can figure it out, right? And then that whole idea of the universe is spoon feeding you and getting you ready to expand your capacities to receive more and more and more. So by being willing to receive everything, you're primed to receive all. And here's the thing about all this. I'm sharing rationalizations and justifying what all this can mean. But really, that's just to get you over onto this idea of just receive, just because. And it doesn't matter what the reason is, but just trusting that the universe has your back and receive everything, and you'll get everything you ask for. That trust. Yes, yes, yes. So let's talk a little bit more about receiving negative or positive. Am I back? Receiving what's deemed negative, what's deemed positive. So there's that saying when like the old newspaper reporters, something's in the newspaper, and you're like, that didn't really happen, but guess what? Any press is good press. So that's kind of the attitude I'm speaking of with this receiving, is any receiving is good receiving because it gets your name out there to the universe. So the old-timey newspaper reporters creating a story in these old black and white movies. This is where I think I got this example from. It reoccurred in a lot of these old-timey movies. It's like, yeah, any press is good press as long as I spell my name right. So what if any receiving is good receiving as long as the universe has got your name spelled right? Ha ha ha. So if anyone has any questions about receiving, or this concept of receiving everything, what seems like the shit as well as what's obviously awesome, post some comments and questions. Hi, Angelo. And I can work those into the last 15 minutes we have here or so. So, yeah, this concept of receiving everything. Has there been a time when you're like, this is amazing, this is great, I'll have this, and then because you received it, it turned to shit, like something that you judged as awesome ended up being not so awesome? So I didn't even realize that till now, but it works both ways. As far as what our expectations are. And so what if even the things that we deem as positive don't turn out to be that way, except then that loops back into the original idea of not judging what something is, so then you're receiving everything. So Rachel, thank you so much for your question. How do you receive negative things? Having a hard time with that now. So that word negative is a judgment. And so I talked about judgment on episode number 1 of the podcast last week. And judgment is really a way to interrupt consciousness. It's a way to distract us and get us off track of just receiving and creating and being in awareness and consciousness. So receiving negative things. I'm sure you can make up lots of stories of how, like, justifications and rationalizations, like, this is all going to turn out for the best, this is making me stronger, everything happens for a reason. All those kinds of things play into receiving what we deem as negative. Here's the thing. Ask yourself, like, what impact is this going to have in 5 years? And how can I shift? How can you shift your perception and choose, have this, what is experienced as negative right now? How can it prompt you to choose for yourself and get clarity in what you really desire to create in your life? So basically, what's the gift in this? What are you not getting about this that if you got it, you got awareness about it, your whole life would change? So let me know how that's landing for you right now, and let me see if I could think of anything else that comes into my awareness around how do you receive negative things. So what if it's not negative? That's just a judgment. And what other choices can you make? So thank you for the thumbs up. So what if everything is just a choice? Everything is just a choice. And if something's not bringing a smile to your face, choose differently. So the sensation of receiving something negative is just an opportunity to be like, oh, I don't like this choice that I made. And you can review, like, what steps did I choose to get into this position? And then look back along the line of those steps that you chose and decide where you can insert a different choice and go from there. And then if you've veered off and you're in a whole new section over here, hey cousin, you can look at what is possible now. With this scenario happening right now, what else can I choose instead? So you see, I didn't use the word negative right then. Dwelling on something being negative distracts our energy. And not receiving it, putting up barriers and force fields, and I know I've done this in the past, that obsessive thinking over and over again, like, fuck, I should have chosen something different. I shoulda. What if nothing that you've done is a wrongness? What if nothing that you've done is a wrongness? And you can step into this, like, imagine you were an alien dropped into this level of the game called life with you as their character, Rachel, and they don't have any of the past basically baggage, distractor implants, whatever else is, distractions and that's keeping you from only being like, okay, here's what's happening now, and what are some other possibilities I could choose, and then choosing them. And you might find that it still doesn't bring a smile to your face, and then you get to choose something different. So what if everything was just a choice? And what if you didn't make yourself a wrongness? So everything that doesn't allow that, you could destroy and uncreate. Times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, hot, pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Magic clearing statement. Alright, I'm checking the time. So I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens when I close the app to check the time. But if there's any other questions, let me know. And this whole idea about receiving. Oh, okay. So here's an awesome thing to be aware of. In our culture, as it is now, we are not encouraged to receive. We are encouraged to be humble and modest. We're not encouraged to receive compliments. We're not encouraged to receive awards without like being humble and making sure to thank everyone else. Really the only acceptable mode of receiving in this culture is the exchange of copulation, sex, 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 sex. Like that's a give and take, a receiving. And so what about if you could receive with that same pleasure in the bedroom? You could do that outside the bedroom with compliments, instead of like, oh, your dress is awesome, I love it, and hearing back, oh, this old thing, oh, it was only $9.99. Oh, like downplaying. What the fuck are all those distractions from? Like, just what if you said thank you? That's a great way. Here's some homework for anyone who would like it. Say thank you. Receive the compliment. Oh my gosh. I just received a bump into the back of my vehicle. Luckily, I have this whole hitch box, so it's pretty flexible. All right. Oh, man. How fun. Okay, so is that the universe giving me one of these, like, good job, Zara, carry on. All right, so some fun homework. If someone compliments your cooking and I left out the spice, it's not as good as last time, what if you practiced receiving and said thank you very much? What else about receiving? So, what if receiving became so gracious and orgasmic and lovely and inviting that the gifter received your delight back? So the gifting becomes the receiving and the receiving becomes the gifting just by pure delight in the receiving, and it really would make the person gifting to you happy they made that choice, right? So you can practice that with other people, and then how can you practice that with the universe? So the universe is like, oh, I'm so delighted I gifted this to you, and I would like to give you more stuff. What do you think is the most encouraging to receive more? If you're like, this sucks, why'd you give me this? Or downplaying the significance, the impact, the delight of thanking someone. Do you think they want to hear that again? Oh, this old thing, I messed it up, it wasn't as good as last time. Or do you think it'd be more fun to hear, oh, thank you so much, thanks for appreciating what I created. You made my day by recognizing that. Thank you so much. How about that? So there's some homework for you to practice. I'm going to call it play work. And let me know in the comments over the next week, what did you practice receiving? Did you catch yourself dismissing and then went ahead and absorbed it? And what if it's okay and it actually creates more to lovingly and abundantly and joyfully receive? So we got a few more moments. So thank you all for receiving me on this Facebook Live podcast. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And anything else you'd like to add in the comments, I'll be reviewing and coming back and answering questions. So anyone who's watching this later, or if you're listening to audio later and you want to add a comment, ask a question, you can go and email me, Zara, Z like zebra, A-R-A-H, Zara at daringheartsclub.com. daringheartsclub.com. Zara at daringheartsclub.com. Yes, that's it. And as every week, this podcast will happen live so far on Facebook, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And I will always explain another reason why this is called the NoPants podcast. Last week was the first and easy one because it's freaking fun to say. The NoPants podcast, NoPants podcast, NoPants podcast. And the reason this week, episode number 2, why this is called the NoPants podcast is because it's a call out to all the entrepreneurs who work from home, and they might just do video conference calls or phone calls or emails for their work, and no one can see what they're wearing, so they might not have pants on. Oh! If you're an entrepreneur, hit me up and let me know if you've ever done a video conference call not wearing any pants. Ooh, ooh. All right, let's play us out. Thank you everyone so much for joining me for the NoPants podcast. NoPants podcast.